It's the third Saturday of the month, which means it's time for Game Club. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpir.
Hello.
And MusiM.
Hey.
This month's Game Club game is Celeste. So this is going to be maybe a little bit different one from the ones we normally do, and this will have some story spoilers. So I know we haven't had to warn about that in months past, but that will probably be an issue with this game. The game's pretty short, so,
yeah,
you could probably pause it now, spend the 5 or so hours to finish it, and then kind of come back. So, let's break down all the deets about the game we usually do at the beginning. It was released January 25th of this year. One of the more recent games we've talked about.
Note to self, added to my list.
That's what I just did when I was making the show notes earlier. So I was like, oh, this didn't go for top 10 this year.
Yep.
Published and developed by Matt Makes Games. Came out on the PC and OS X Linux, PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. Time travel. Metacritic has it at a 94. OpenCritic had it as 92. Wow. So incredibly well received. Peers for the release date were Iconoclasts, another very popular indie game, Subnautica, and Monster Hunter World, the original console release. Top of the pile, middle of the pack, or overlooked. Top of the pile, I'm sort of going with. It seemed to be an indie darling.
Yeah, I think this thing got talked about a lot, and then Monster Hunter kind of stole the show.
Right.
I think it was probably like a good 2-week period of people playing Monster Hunter and getting used to Monster Hunter, and this thing was talked about a lot, and then immediately it was like, never mind, Celeste, we've got Monster Hunter.
Yeah. And I feel like it's a shorter experience, so I feel like the press sort of flares up for a little bit, and then everyone who's collecting all the strawberries is just going to go to the subreddit and talk about it for months.
Yes.
Okay, let's get into what we liked and what we didn't like. I think, Moon, you had mentioned last week that you had a lot of thoughts about the game, so I'll start with you.
Yeah. The main thing for me, well, other than the fact that let's just nail it straight down, the controls. Let's talk about this first and foremost, because this is something that does not happen a lot, which is a game comes out and absolutely nails the controls and the feel of a game to perfection.
Mm-hmm.
We're very lucky right now in the fact that I believe me and you, Boston, at least are playing 2 of these games in Celeste and Dead Cells.
Yes.
The fact that this thing came out and it's got that Super Meat Boy level of controls, it's got that absolute perfection when it comes to knowing I messed up. It's my fault that I just went into those spikes. It's not the game's fault.
Right. Yeah, Super Meat Boy, I think, is a very apt... mostly because a lot of people have played Super Meat Boy. It's that same level of... It's almost the same, too, because a lot of Celeste levels are one screen, or maybe sort of one screen that's long, sort of left and right. That a lot of times you can look at a screen in Celeste and say, okay, I know, jump here, jump there, dash, 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 and like the exit is sort of up there. You know what to do almost immediately, or like maybe after 1 or 2 runs, similar to Super Meat Boy, and then you just have to execute. And it's just, you get further and further and further until you finish it, and then you get the next screen and you have that same gameplay loop over and over again.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I mean, it's hard to think of games that have that level of fidelity. MusiM, did you do this on Switch or on consoles?
I did it on Switch.
Okay.
How was it on Switch because that's the biggest thing that would scare me about this game.
Yeah, well, and the my Switch problems I've talked about in the past, I think I've mostly figured out and just kind of accepted. The Switch wireless is not great. So if you're like me and you're like 10 feet away and your Switch is next to your Xbox and PlayStation 4, like when it's on the TV, like the controllers just don't communicate well with it.
Oh, right.
Like the Xbox and PlayStation don't have any issues, but this does. So like occasionally, like one of my dogs will sit in front of me and I'll be like, why is my jump button not working? What's going on here? Okay, I need to move my hands up a little bit and then we'll start.
Just rest on the dog.
Yeah, so the button fidelity, I think is there. and I agree with everything you said in terms of control and all that. I think that's accurate.
Did either of you guys play with the assists on?
Yes.
I turned them on the second I beat the game.
Okay, yeah, I finished it without using them.
Yeah.
I went in knowing that I don't like skill-based platformers. So just from the get-go, I went in under the assist option. I died, I think, 44 times. I'm like, I'm just going to wind up making myself mad without this stuff. So I turned on. I kind of just made the game so I didn't have to deal with it much, and I could appreciate like everything else about it.
Yeah.
Because I turned on invincibility, so like if I fell, I would just bounce at the bottom of the screen.
Oh, that's cool. I like that that's in there.
Yeah. The turning on, like, it gives you several options for the dashes. Like, you can make it to where you can do it 2-3 times or infinite or something like that, which later in the game kind of hurts one of the reveals for me. I think that reveal would have been a lot
where you like
without
smushed
that.
Together with part of Madeline.
Yeah. And it seemed like there was one other. Oh yeah, you can give yourself infinite stamina, which honestly I never turned that one on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably the least important stat is gripping walls and falling off. I think I might have fallen off a wall once or twice, but that was never really an issue.
That's because you're not a fruit hunter like the rest of us.
That's fair. Yeah, I talked about this a little bit on TVGP proper, but I collected a handful of strawberries, and I think as soon as I started collecting them, I saw the path at the end where I wasn't finishing the game because I was stuck on stage 3, like in the B-side collecting strawberries. And I was like, I can't do that to myself.
Yeah. Let's talk about the assists first and foremost. Like, how that is, well, number one, it's a game changer. Clearly, it's meant to be.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they do say to you when you turn them on, we recommend playing for the first time without these on.
Okay.
But they also do a very good job of, they're like, don't worry though, you can turn them on. It's not going to have any effect on anything. It's not going to change anything.
Cool.
It's designed to be hard, but if you're not comfortable with that, no shame, no nothing. They don't turn around and do what other games probably would do and be like, oh, you're such a wussy, you got to play with the assists.
Finish it on normal before assists unlock.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
And like, you can't. I say that. I guess I could have gotten to Chapter 8 had I realized that I was supposed to be obtaining these heart things throughout the levels.
Crystal heart things. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I never.
One of those.
I saw one, couldn't figure out how to get it, and moved on.
The one at the top of a castle by any chance?
I don't think
it's in one of the later levels, and it had like a thing of ice or something in front of it. And I think in retrospect, I just needed to dash through the ice or something. No, that's not right. I tried that.
Yeah, I watched Chapter 8 on YouTube just to see what it entails, and I am glad I didn't have to play that. And that was it's pretty intense.
Yeah.
And your powers change too. They no longer recharge when you hit the ground.
Yep. It's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, the assists are really, really good. I like the fact that it doesn't detract from anything. Like, if you want to, I will probably be going for all the achievements in this game because there is a way to get them where I don't have to smash my face against a cheese grater for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Like, it's a good way for me to just go in and just experience the joy of that control for a little while.
And like the level design, because now you get to see all the secret walls you have to smash yourself into to open. You know, all the, like, oh, this area looked like it's just a part of a wall that has some shafts of light coming out of it. Oh, I can dash in there. You know, then here's a strawberry. You get to enjoy that stuff instead.
Yeah,
because a lot of the level design is so impeccably designed that you want to see as much of it as you can.
Yeah, I mean, there's that, and then there's also, like, let's talk about the music, shall we?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I was surprised about how much I like this music, but weirdly, none of it sticks with me. it's one of those things where, like, as soon as I stop playing the game, I'm not thinking of the music. Like, it's not in my head anymore.
Right.
It's like I'll go into a new level, like the hotel level, for example, has got really cool, creepy music. But then the second I'm not playing the game anymore, I'm playing something else. Like, the music doesn't stick with me. It's really well done, and it's very appropriate for the areas and the levels that you're in. But it's one of those ones where it just hasn't stuck with me at all, and I don't know why. I love it when I'm playing it, but then the second I put it down, I've forgotten every single part of the music.
Well, and I don't know that that's a bad thing, because, like,
no.
Sometimes, like, I've always argued, and I'm sure a lot of people disagree with me, certainly if they've never heard this point of view before, that a lot of soundtracks don't necessarily know when to shut up and just let the moment happen. Like one of the ones I like. Well, and like I never can pull any games from my head when I'm talking about this, but I always think of like the first Harry Potter movie. Like, I'm not saying by any means John Williams bad; he's amazing, but that soundtrack never shuts up. It takes it, like, it's still an amazing, melody hook you made for it. But like, and this I think is kind of a hardcore a soundtrack on that aspect, in that it's so in tune with what you're supposed to be feeling in the game at the moment and how it's supposed to be building. And it's like, I agree, like, none of the melodies kind of stuck with me, but I still think like everything was kind of perfect for the levels they were on, and I don't think that game would have anywhere near the same mood or feeling if that music wasn't there.
Yeah, I actually, two interesting things about the soundtrack, because I'm a little obsessed about it right now. One thing is listening to the soundtrack, which is available on Spotify. Each one of the main levels tracks are about 9 to 10 minutes long, which I thought was pretty crazy. I think that's one of the reasons why it isn't, I don't want to call it memorable. It's not like a real earworm, because it's not a 3-minute track that just repeats. Yeah, or not like a 1-minute track that repeats. It's not sort of like, all right, here comes that part again. The other thing too, I read an interview actually yesterday. It came up with the composer Lena Raine. She was saying that it's really interesting, since it was such a small team. She would submit a bunch of music for the game, and then as a result, the story would change, and some of the level design would change to meet the music, and then as a result, her music would need to change to that. So there was this really cool symbiotic relationship between all of the members on the team, that the game kept growing and getting deeper and getting more meaningful as everybody started feeding into what each other person's work was doing. I thought that was really awesome. Cool. It wasn't just like, here's the music, I'm done, turned it in and like left.
Yeah, I mean,
like, her website kind of pushes for that method too. Like, I've noticed like some game developers don't like bringing in the music till the end, but her website, like when she's saying, "Hey, hire me to do your music," she's also saying, "Bring me in as early as possible so we can start crafting the song and make sure we're on the same page and create a mood and build off each other." And that's, I mean, that whole selling point on her page, I imagine, has to be from this experience from Celeste. And like, if you haven't checked out her other music, it's all pretty good. I picked up I can't remember one of her singles that she did. It's like a 4 or 5 track album that I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, because she also has some of the other work she does is under a name like Coraine or something like that. She has 2, like, her video game stuff is under one name, and then her other stuff is under another name. And what I liked about the soundtrack on the game, I think the main soundtrack is really strong, but I think all the B-side tracks that are all remixes of the main game songs are really good. Like, Ben Prunty's in there, Too Mellow, she does something, like, there are some real famous video game composers that are in there doing really, really good stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah. Ben Prunty's the Reach guy, right?
Yeah, Into the Reach and FTL.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I was the most surprised about with Celeste, I feel like part of my expectation of this game was that it was going to just be a hardcore sort of pixel perfect platformer, which thankfully it wasn't. But I really wasn't expecting to have this much story and have it be really good.
Yep.
And have it be applicable to some stuff in my own life. I think that was something I was really pleasantly surprised by.
Out of curiosity, I'm assuming I'm guessing we are all in agreement about the antagonist of the show, the part of
me,
part of Madeline, or whatever it is. That's basically all the negative stuff. That's the depression, anxiety.
Yeah,
like
her anger.
Yeah, it's the negative things we do to ourselves. Yeah, because we're trying to protect ourselves from something that might be negative, but it usually ends up being positive, kind of thing.
Yeah,
like that shocked me. What shocked me the most was like you said, it's very well developed as it goes, as you get further and further into the game, and you learn more about what the dark side version of her is. I think it's really good the way they eventually come to terms with each other, especially after one basically just rejecting the other flat out, and then it's like, oh no, that's not how this works.
Right.
Like the explanation of it's okay to have the dark side of yourself, which not enough media these days actually. People will say it's okay to. Like the new hoodie I got, it's okay to not be okay. It is, but it's okay to embrace that side of you as well, to admit that it's there and to embrace it and actually come out stronger, embracing it at the same time as not trying to just hide it or deal with it. Like, it's a part of everybody, I think, and it's the way it's told in this is particularly nice, especially when it's like, okay, working together, they do a lot more than they do individually.
And go ahead, MusiM.
I was just say, I really liked a lot of the detail whenever you encounter that personality. Like, its hair starts kind of enveloping the screen and coming out.
Yep. Yeah, it's like breaking the border on their character.
And I really love the idea that it's kind of all-encompassing and enclosing her and kind of taking over her field point of view, you know?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I think that's actually probably the end of my thought.
I also like Theo's character, and I really like that they didn't write Theo to fix Madeline, however you want to pronounce it. I like that Madeline and part of me worked through their stuff together, with a little bit of help from the old woman and like a little bit of maybe too much pushing from Mr. Oshiro. But like the two of them came to terms with it, and it's clearly an allegory for climbing the mountain, like coming to terms with yourself, and it's a coming of age tale. Like it's pretty clear on that. But I feel like a lot of media would have had this guy come in and they'd have this conversation as they were coming up to the summit, and he'd say something that would fix her. And I'm glad that Celeste didn't go down that road.
Yeah.
I also like, from a gameplay standpoint, I really like how they implemented part of me in like the two main boss battles. The Chapter 2 one where she's chasing you and there's multiple ones that are chasing you.
Yeah.
I thought was really well done. But I think the one at the end of Chapter 6 where she's firing lasers at you was...
Where you're chasing her.
Yeah, I thought that was so well... Like, there's something about it where it feels so good avoiding those lasers and like bouncing around the stage and going through all these crystals, but at the same time it feels really great smacking into her and then getting bounced off, and like bouncing off and falling right into the next place you need to go, or like they designed that so well where you bounce off of her and usually into a safe spot or into a spot where it's going to launch you back past where you just were. And it is another one of those places where it just feels so good.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
That boss battle particularly reminded me of Meat Boy, because there is the thing at the end of Meat Boy where you face
Dr. Fetus.
Dr. Fetus, which I should know his name so much.
Our favorite Binding of Isaac item.
Yeah. There's that level where you face him, and it's the same kind of thing where it's a pixel perfect route through a level that as you do it more, you get better at it, you get further at it, and it does that whole thing of as soon as you make contact with him and you move on to the next section, and it continues just that really nice flow.
Yeah.
Like you said, especially when you've got to bounce off here, then go all the way to the other side of the screen, drop down under some spikes, then boost up into a gem, and then continue that flow going on. It's really satisfying when you get to that kind of level and you're just like, okay, I know how to do this now, I've just got to execute it. And when you do, it's a really good, it's that good endorphin buzz of, okay, I did it, let's move on to the next thing.
Yeah. I do have to say, as much as I enjoyed those two boss battles, I sort of had two major problems with this game overall.
Is one of them a crystal?
Yeah. The end of Stage 5 with Theo, I really enjoyed Stage 5 when you're avoiding that, like, monster eye thing.
A big fish thing.
Yeah, like, I enjoyed most of that. I felt like it started to stretch on maybe one or two screens too many. I was sort of ready to be done with it earlier than that was. But man, when you have to start juggling Theo, like, I almost didn't finish that stage.
Yeah.
Yeah, playing through that on assist mode, I was like, I don't see how anyone is doing this any other way. This is.
Yeah, a lot of it was like. I'm
sure it's possible because that game seemed like it is pretty well tuned to be possible. It just seems such a pain in the butt.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, without the assists on, the real difficulty was you've played so much of that level up to that point where you have your timing down where you can bop that thing on the head and it turns into like the little bat thing, and you get a couple of seconds of freedom. But carrying Theo, his crystal is so heavy that your jump is impacted. So a lot of times I'm trying to jump on him, and I'm just smacking right into the face of that thing. It's like, oh, Theo, please.
Yeah, I think there was at least a good 4 or 5 screens where you're trying to escape with him in that thing. And I'm not kidding when I say the screen panned over to the next screen, and the monster was literally like about 2 pixels away from actually eating me.
Yes, so many times.
Like, it was just like every transition, it felt like, okay, that was close, that was closer, that's way too close, oh no.
Oh yeah, he's gonna get me.
Yep.
My other problem, and this is gonna sound really weird, and I feel like this is probably gonna be one of my more divisive Game Club statements. I really didn't like Chapter 7, because after Chapter 6, I was kind of done with the game.
Which chapter is Chapter 7?
It's climbing back to the summit.
I really liked Chapter 7. I hated Chapter 6.
Yeah, I kind of like Chapter 6 mostly because it's a lot of boss fight, with the her shooting the lasers at you, and you get a really great story at the end where, Madeline and part of me is coming to terms. Mm-hmm. And I like that on paper, I really like that Chapter 7 is you working together with part of me. You're boosting each other to the top. You get the double jump now, like the double dash.
And it's like the best of for all the levels as well.
Yeah, like I like that you're going all the way back up the mountain, and I like the payoff at the end, that the summit feels really satisfying. Just after that boss battle in Chapter 6, I was kind of done with the game in a way, where I was sort of like, oh, I have to climb the whole mountain. Like, I still really like the animation where you and part of me launch each other up, hundreds of meters, and you're sort of spinning in the air and having a good conversation. I thought that was good, but I was sort of done at that point.
Yeah.
I didn't really care for the, I like the idea of the turn into a ball of light and fly mechanic. I did not like the controls on that.
Yeah.
Oh, with the feather?
Rough. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it.
It was a little... I get what they were going for, where you sort of had you couldn't turn on a dime, but that frustrated me a lot, because when you're playing as Madeline, you can turn on a dime, or you can just dash out of the way, and Yeah, you're right. It was a little.
I feel like it either needed to move slower or turn better, like one or the other.
That's fair. Yeah.
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 But I mean, again, I had assist mode on, so it mostly didn't matter. But
Yeah.
I like to try and like look at the levels and be like, okay, this is how I might beat it if I were doing it fairly, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like those, every time they happened, I was very thankful I had assist on.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to me those issues I had are so minor compared to how great the game is and how great the overall quality is. I feel like I'm in the vast minority for not enjoying Chapter 7, just because it is good and it is a good chapter. I was just at that point sort of. It's like when you play a game and there's like a playable epilogue on the game. It's like, oh, I just watched the credits. Like I'm done. Like listen, just I'm good.
I really hoped, like, because when you're talking to the old lady at the bottom, like, there's clearly an elevator in the background. Like,
Yes.
I was really hoping she would take me back up. Like,
yeah, I sort of got the impression that was the elevator back to the car. And Madeline was saying, like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm going to climb the mountain together with part of me.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, because I was just like, can we just, like, go back to, like, maybe 0 feet or, like, 1,000 feet, maybe?
I do wish the like, I know it's a pretty short game, but because of the difficulty, I kind of wish the levels were a little bit shorter. And I'm also kind of wondering, like, when you start getting to the top and you're passing the signs, I guess they're meter signs, the 2019 countdown stuff. Oh yeah, like those seem like it's kind of one continuous screen. Like, how does it work in those?
They're checkpoints. Every time you hit a flag, it's a checkpoint. So when you die, you go back to the flag.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Like, walking through that, I'm like, how did anyone not throw this game out the window if these aren't checkpoints?
Yeah.
But
well, I think part of why I enjoyed some of that checkpoint stuff is I feel like the game feels so much different when you have the double boost that a lot of that is, it felt not super pixel perfect, but by that point I was sort of enjoying exploring my newfound control scheme. And I sort of enjoyed that. And like, man, it always felt good in this game. I think two things felt really great in this game. One was like those starry blobs where you just shot all the way through them.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Those felt really great, and picking up one of those crystals that recharges your jump always felt great. It almost felt like a cheat, where you're like, now I got him, now I can just keep going. It's just, man, that felt good.
Yeah.
This game feels good. Oops, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, this is on a slightly different topic, but like, I was really impressed by kind of the whole UI and menu layouts and everything for the game and presentation. Like, I know it's an indie game, but it really has almost a AAA kind of feel to it.
It's like, very polished.
Yeah, it feels like they put a lot of effort into every aspect of this. It's not like it's the same thing with the music. It's like it's another ingredient in the thing of a game that can make it be incredible. And it's like, it feels like they put so much work into every single different facet that makes a game great. Like Super Meat Boy, don't get me wrong, Super Meat Boy is one of the best controlling games I've ever played. It's one of the best platformers I've ever played. The art style on it is really unique and really cool. Kind of have to be into it to be really appreciative of it.
Yeah.
But you look at the rest of the game and the menus are okay. The saw blades and the level design. The level design is great, but the level artwork is kind of okay. Well,
it's functional.
Whereas with this one, this feels like so much thought was put into every single aspect of it. The level design, the music, the controls, the restart time is phenomenal as well. So that makes a big difference when you've died 700 times on one level.
Well, and the thing that's really interesting is I was really happy they put the Pico 8 version in the game as an unlockable, because there's two things that's really interesting about the Pico 8 version, because it's sort of famous in that community. One is they used all but, I think it was 2 characters in the game. So it's like the biggest you can make a Pico 8 cart, because they have a specific size limit that's very small. And 2, that version was made in 4 days over a game jam.
Yep.
What I thought was really interesting is, I just looked up how long the full version, the proper version of Celeste took to develop, and they said it took 2 years to develop, and it sort of shows, like MusiM saying, like, it's all so polished and all feels good, and like the menu's cool, how you're spinning around the Celeste mountain as you're selecting your chapters, and even when you fall down after chapter 6, I think it is, or 5, like your little character icon just slides upside down the mountain, like into a crevice. I was like, that's a really cool touch that you didn't need to do. You could have just like panned the camera down, but it's all those little touches that really paid off.
Yeah.
Part of me climbing out of her little character portrait that one time, like...
Yeah, like when she gets really pissed at the end, like her whole body is climbing out of it. It's just so cool. Celeste is a great game, and I'm glad that... Because I didn't even look at the assist menu, I kept forgetting. I'm really glad that they don't punish you or insult you or anything, because I feel like Celeste is one of those games that I feel like you should give a chance, even if you don't like this type of game, because, like MusiM was saying, you can configure the game for any sort of type you want. Like, maybe you want unlimited dashes, but you still want to die when you touch spikes. That's cool too. Or if you want to collect all the strawberries and play all the B-sides without assists on, like, you can have that super hardcore thing. But I'm glad they went through, and I'm glad they did those assists, because it means that I think virtually anybody can play the game and experience it. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
So, Moon, did you get all the strawberries?
Hell no.
Not yet.
Not even close right now.
Yeah.
I think, as I was going through it, the problem I ran into was you take a path, you think it leads to a strawberry. No, this is the way you're supposed to go. Oh, no, you can't go backwards anymore.
Sure.
So all of those you've already missed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the hotel level was the one I kept getting lost in a lot.
Yeah, me too.
Yep.
It made sense once I figured out what they were doing, but I kept getting turned around. That and the old ruins, where there was like those 2 doors you had to unlock to shoot yourself across the level. I kept having trouble finding one of those keys. I just had to look it up. All right, any last thoughts about Celeste here? I feel like we've covered a lot of the bases, but wanted to have everyone sort of speak their piece.
Celeste is really, really good.
Yeah.
And the fact that it has that option is great, because I can go back now and I can just play this as and when I choose, and just chill out and not have to worry about anything. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
The game has a lot of charm. Like I said at the beginning, I don't like 2D skill-based platformers. I'm glad it had assist mode in it, because I don't think I would have had the patience to beat it otherwise. But I think even the little bit I played without it, like if I didn't have this game club I was doing, I think I probably would have stuck with not using it a little bit longer.
Yeah, and just like play it over a longer time period.
Yeah, and it's it's so polished. It's hard not to appreciate whether you like its genre or not.
Yeah. I feel the same way. I feel like this is one of those indie games I will absolutely recommend when someone's like, oh, what are indie games I should play? And it's like, if you're looking for something a little challenging or at least surprisingly story-based, then I think Celeste is going to be a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
But let's talk about our next game for the next month coming up.
I don't know, because it wasn't a vote one, so I don't know what it is.
It is Ori and the Blind Forest.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
For PC and Xbox One. One of my favorite Metroidvanias. For anyone that's going to pick it up, please pick up the definitive edition. The original release had, I think there's some DLC on the end that we probably won't bother covering. We'll just talk about the base game here again. But there are some sections that you have to escape from, and in the original release you couldn't go back to. So 100%ing the game was at some point impossible. So pick up the Definitive Edition. That's both on Xbox One and PC. I don't think it's out on anything else because I believe Microsoft Game Studios published this title.
I believe they did, yes.
Yeah, so there's no Switch or PS4 version. But it runs really well on Xbox One. That's where I played it, and I'm super pumped to play it again. So this month's game will be Ori and the Blind Forest. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you all next month.